The Marquis is the enigmatic owner and creator of the Sexy Brutale casino mansion. Every year, he throws an extravagant masked ball for a select party of guests. His impeccably trained staff cater to their every desire, but this year something is terribly wrong. The guests aren't getting what they want at all. But you can find that out for yourself, Lufkadibun. After all, you have all the time in the world. Welcome to the Sexy Brutale. This video will be a bit different. Given the Sexy Brutale is a puzzle game with heavy emphasis on its story, and to avoid any spoilers, I'll just play the tutorial level unedited in the background while I speak over it. This should give you a decent idea of the gameplay loop and how it feels to progress through the game. It also means what's visually present on screen might not have any direct relation with what I'm talking about at that time, unlike it usually happens. It also means this one will be a bit on the longer side. So sit back, relax, and let's see how it goes. The Sexy Brutale will see you play the role of a detective that just woke up and found himself stuck inside a mansion in the midst of a time loop of deception and murder. Aided by a bloodied apparition that gives you a magical stopwatch which allows you to rewind time, it is your job to prevent the mansion's staff from killing every single one of a number of notable guests, invited by the mysterious Marquis for a high-class masked ball. The gameplay is very simple. Walk around the mansion, never to be seen or heard, and after witnessing a murder, go back in time and prevent it somehow. Before doing so, however, you'll need to map the area around you as well as the characters that walk around in it, stuck in an endless routine. This can involve peeking through doors, eavesdropping on conversations, hide yourself in closets, investigate messages and letters, whatever it might be that provides you with any sort of information. This will give insights on both who killed who, when the murder happened, and most importantly, how. Armed with those key pieces of information, you'll be able to manipulate objects scattered all over the place and prevent said murder. In the tutorial mission you're watching, for example, you'll learn that the guest in question will be shot in the chapel at 4 PM with a rifle. So the solution in this case is to follow said guest around until they accidentally drop blank ammunition from a chest, pick it up, quickly go to where their murder weapon is stored, replace the real ammo for the blank shots, and then just sit back and watch while the staff member tries to shoot the would-be victim down, only to be surprised by the dud for long enough that the target has time to retaliate and knock down their assailant. After saving any guest, you'll gain a new power that lets you further explore the mansion, allowing you to witness more crimes, save more guests, and so on. Just to give a few examples, the first power you gain extends the time loop from noon to 5 PM to noon to midnight, so half a day. Others will let you eavesdrop more accurately, others talk with ghosts, etc. Aesthetically and thematically, the game is out of this world incredible. The dialogue is witty and the deaths are creative. There's a ton of environmental storytelling that slowly clicks into place as the story progresses and the theme is very competently realized. The soundtrack is an absolute blast. Sound design is spot on, though the lack of voice acting is a shame. Visually, everything is clear and communicates a very specific purpose with extreme clarity. Technically, it should be a very cohesive experience, but it isn't. Where the game kinda lost me, and where it might lose you, is in how it treads the line between gameplay and storytelling, and how it evolves throughout your playthrough. For reference, I beat the story but didn't get any side objectives in 7.5 hours, and it progressed something like this. It starts off with puzzle elements extremely pronounced, such as needing to very methodically uncover the layout of the mansion, carefully mapping out characters' movements so that you don't stumble upon them and get chased off, exploring multiple angles of approach which let you see more or less of certain areas, combining eavesdropping and peeking through doors, outmaneuvering other hotel guests and staff so that you can enter a room before they do or before a certain key item is misplaced. This is all taught and emphasized in the tutorial mission you're seeing, and it translates well into how it feels to play the Sexy Brutale for the first couple of missions, and where you'll probably make use of all of these techniques, if nothing else because the game just very explicitly taught you how and nudged you in that direction. However, very quickly two things happen that sort of corrode most of these concepts. To begin with, you don't need to be nearly as careful with your movement as the game might make you believe. You can just barge in wherever and safely exit without getting caught. Sometimes you can even exit in completely opposite ends of the same room because the baddie chasing you is just that slow. This takes the danger and tension levels down to basically zero, as you just meander around the mansion without a single care in the world and completely nulls most of the concepts I just outlined. Uncovering the mansion's layout becomes trivial as you just take a quick lap around and that's done. Multiple angles of approach become redundant. If you can see from where you're at, well, just enter the room and exit wherever it suits you, while a bad mask very slowly chases you. Eavesdropping becomes meaningless, as you both get a very noticeable warning that you're about to enter an occupied room, and then again, you can just enter and exit again safely. All that's left is mapping out the character's movements and move key items around accordingly, which remains fun, and it is honestly very enjoyable to just follow people around and check their routines and dialogues, which are pretty amusing. Secondly, the game wears its structure right on its sleeves in how it keeps you on a very linear path, preventing you from potentially stumbling into multiple characters' paths at once or breaking the intended sequence. The order in which you save each guest is set in stone, and the way the game accomplishes that is by sectioning off each one into a very narrow area of the mansion via hard locks that can only be opened using the power of the guest you just saved. This means that, whenever you solve a puzzle in Area A, that area becomes irrelevant forever. So in a way, even though you apparently have this huge sandbox of a mansion to explore and manipulate at will, each puzzle will take part in such a walled-off and independent manner that the whole experience could more or less be replaced by a more traditional, independent level structure. Likewise, if you use the power granted by Guest 1 to open the area to save Guest 2, chances are that first power is now fully explored and will barely see the light of day again. There are some exceptions, but they are few and far between. This creates a fairly linear, if not decreasing challenge level as you understand what the game wants you to do and are barely challenged in your assumptions. The time travel element is also sadly underutilized, as bar a single situation that I can remember, you never need to rewind time in order to solve any mysteries. You will always do in order to understand where different characters are at different times of the day, but the solution to the murder itself doesn't rely on that. So in effect, time travel is just used as a plot device that explains why you can retry levels as many times as you want, rather than a core puzzle solving element. It is extremely pivotal for the narrative, but not at all for gameplay. Furthermore, the solutions are for the most part very cut and dry and one and done. As soon as you affect the world in any way, that is the entire solution, rather than being part of a greater chain reaction. If you ever lock someone in a room, which would then affect the day of everyone they would eventually meet, but now cannot because they are stuck, whenever you do something of that sort, there is the solution to the puzzle, not one step in it. Solutions are mostly find scissors, cut wire, power goes off, done. Rather than something like place wire in a corridor that does nothing by itself and then lure a staff member that wouldn't otherwise be there to set corridor so he trips on the wire and the power goes off. In this example, you'd need to bring two separate elements together that by themselves do nothing to reach a solution. That never happens. Also, the game doesn't keep its own internal rules consistent. For example, whenever the day starts over, you lose all items in your inventory and the environment is fully reset. This sometimes stops happening towards the end of the game, and it feels like it was just because the devs couldn't find a way around what they wanted to achieve, rather than being a meaningful decision. All of this makes me particularly sad because there are glimpses of pure game design genius peppered throughout, which makes me feel like the gameplay itself could have been elevated to greater heights. At the very start of the first mission proper, which you'll see in a bit, there's a bad guy walking on an upper level of the same room as you while mumbling to himself. During that sequence, however, he is oblivious to your presence. So, in mere 5 seconds, the game just taught you that multiple levels on the same floor are safe to stand in, as other characters don't see you in that circumstance. It also exposes you to gameplay elements that will only be relevant much later on without really bringing your attention to them, but only to start engraving them into your subconscious. And you'll see this room many times as you go back in time. So, even if you miss any of that at first, you'll get more chances to eventually catch on to the clues. And this isn't the only example by any means. As the focus on puzzles decreases, the storytelling emphasis just skyrockets, with more and longer narrative sequences between missions that take on darker and darker undertones as it progresses. Don't get me wrong, the story, the setting, the characters are all phenomenal, and it is genuinely engaging to dive deeper into the macabre and twisted events that led to the current murderous time loop everyone seems to be stuck in. However, just like the story it tells and the characters that inhabit it, the game becomes two-faced and slightly weird to experience. If you're looking for a unique puzzle with time manipulation and detective work as the core and the focus, you'll get that for a couple of hours, and then you'll find yourself in the middle of a visual novel that, for you, might seem to drag on forever. If you're into the setting and just want to experience a burlesque story of blood rituals, treason and backstabbing, you'll need to slog through gameplay that might not be of any interest before reaching what truly brought you here. Maybe I'm being unfair. Maybe the game was purposefully designed like so, and the transition between the Sexy Brutale, the puzzle, and the Sexy Brutale, the movie, is seamless and captivating enough that a broader audience will experience it the way I did and be engaged by both facets. And it goes without saying that, even after this very lengthy criticism, which stems more from me liking the game so much I just wish it was even better, I will still wholeheartedly recommend it, otherwise this video wouldn't even exist. It's one of those experiences that I'm sad I can't relive for the first time again, as the twists and turns you're led through are truly engaging and memorable, even if they're mostly driven by the narrative and not the gameplay. And that's enough from me. If you're looking to learn more about everything you've been seeing on screen, and trust me, the payoff is worth it, just check the link in the description. See ya!